Good morning and welcome to See What She Can Do Conversations. I am here with my co-host today, Caroline Wiley.
Good morning, everybody.
Our guests today are Lakshmi and her husband, Dr. Neeru Jayanthi. They are the founders of Pickup Sports and parents to two young boys. We saw one of their little ones earlier on in the show today. It was great to see them. They're very passionate about helping parents introduce their young kids to sport right in the home in a really fun way. And if you're a parent with young kids, this is definitely the program for you to listen to because we can all use more fun in our homes these days. Welcome, Lakshmi and Dr. Neeru.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's great to have you with us this morning. I'm going to just jump right in and get started. I'd love to know, what role has sport played in your lives, whether it's within, the children, your two wonderful boys that you have, and how you bring it to life as a family.
Sure. Well, let me start. I'm going to actually have my husband start because I had decided young that I'm not going to marry anybody who's ever into sports. And then my mind changed when I met Neeru. So I'm going to have him talk about his sports life and then how it's integrated with our family now.
Well, and we have to touch on that aspect after your husband speaks about why you decided you were not going to marry a sport lover. So let's have a listen.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 80s and our environment was very different than it is now. And that environment was actually just playing for fun, playing with friends and kids in the neighborhood, riding down the street, getting on your bike. And most of our sport activity, physical activity, was what we call pickup sports, literally. You just pick up and went and played. And we rarely had organized practices. And it was all self-directed and it was quite a bit of fun. Now, in some areas you pick an area. Mine was, competitive tennis, but most of that was still self-directed. But even during periods of doing that, I had an opportunity to play and try just about every sport. And I really loved every sport as I went through. And, I went the medical route and then went through the whole thing. But, it just so happened it turned out to be that my research work on young folks, young athletes was, about the advantages of playing multiple sports, particularly with injury risk and also retention and continuing to enjoy. And I was one of the first people to describe that. And, you don't have to be the best as long as you're the first. And kind of it's a worldwide phenomenon now where today's culture is very different. And a lot of kids are asked and forced to play a single sport at a very young age and not have an opportunity to explore, not be self-directed, and particularly not at home. So a path is now with our two boys is changed a lot over the last 30 years or so, or more actually.
Yeah.
Maybe you can comment.
Yeah. So I guess to touch on what I said earlier, the reason I actually grew up in a house full of brothers and boys, and my dad was really into fitness. My brothers played a lot of sports, and I did as well. So it was kind of like too much sports, and I was the only girl, so I was trying to pave my own way and do girly things. So I said I'm never going to marry anyone who's into sports, but I did secretly like it. I watched and I played, and I was always into fitness. And then of course, when I met Neeru, and of course that's his livelihood, and he's so passionate about it, then I became more interested as an adult. And now that we have two boys, I just love seeing them have these successful experiences when they're playing and increasing their confidence. And I just want to make a world where everybody feels confident, and sports has a large role to play in that.
Well, and what a joy to have a household where your focus is on play, right? I mean, a lot less stress on you as a young child if the focus is on play and building confidence than on being the best, the first, the fastest, the strongest, whatever that might look like, right? So kudos to you guys. And have you seen any challenges, I guess, Dr. Neeru, either for you or for Lakshmi, with, whether it's in your practice or in your own family, with your kids losing interest or not being interested in participating in sports, whether it's, kids that are, just playing, video games, or, dropping out even in their teen years? Like, do you have personal experience on that side?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about the kids, and then Neeru could talk a little bit on what he's seen on the patient side. Yeah, with the kids, so it's interesting. Each child has a very different interest level in sports. Like our older one, for example, he's a little bit more me. He's very creative, into crafts and arts, and he likes being active, but he's not obsessed with competition and play. Our younger one, on the other hand, he's a little lefty. He loves all sports, and he's got this natural talent, and he wants to play all the time. So when we, as far as parenting is concerned, you assume we have two boys are going to be really into sports, and then our older one, we had to kind of push him a little bit, but we don't want to push him too much just because of what we know. So guiding him in the right way, in a way to make it fun, was incredibly important. Whereas our younger one, it was just kind of easier to just throw him in there and just let him play. So just understanding the nuances and what works for each child is really important, to make sure that they see sports as not something I have to do, but something I want to do. Because we're not seeing it as something that's going to get him some sort of college scholarship. We just want to see him play for fun and to be active and to be a healthy, 35-year-old one day, So that's why we want to make sure that it's part of his life. And then, if you want to talk a little bit what you've seen with patients.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback what she says is, I actually don't think we don't really push it all. We really do want it to be self-directed, and particularly at home and in environments where they develop that confidence. And this is not dissimilar to a lot of households where kids stratify themselves to what we call in our pickup sports model, like the ballers, who are our younger kid, who's very competitive and will pick up a ball anytime and play and compete. And then the explorers who want to try a lot of different things, and that's our older child, but don't have necessarily long-term aspirations or interests. But that was where most kids are, And then the starters are the kids who maybe need more encouragement on the fun side, and really safe environments around either family or friends, where it's not really intimidating. And they're probably not the ones who would even consider signing up for organized sport. And so you have to look at every child differently, even your own children, and so that it's always positive. And I'll say that our older kid, we hesitated to do any sort of organized sport. He's almost 8 now, and here baseball is very, very competitive, even if you can believe it, at the 6, 7, 8-year-old level. But he did all of it at home. We always asked, what do you want to try now? And then he said he would like to try to play baseball. We put him in a baseball league, and he flourished. Oh. And he, his first game, he got 4 hits and 4 runs, and he was doing somersaults. The only kid who did somersaults with every run. And
I love it.
But he developed the skills and confidence at home. So while all the other kids were in baseball for literally 6, 7 seasons prior to it, he was just at home playing with us and learning ball control and batting and running and just basic skills, catching and everything, so that when he did integrate in that environment, he was ready, and he had a very positive experience. And that's the crux of it. That's our goal. And so what I see is the rush, and this is just because people don't know about alternatives, that you feel as a parent that, my gosh, if I don't get my kid going by 4 or 5, I'm going to be way behind. I've got to get him signed up for this or that. I don't have the confidence as a parent to do anything more. And so inherently what happens then is the child feels a little bit pressured. There's a performance aspect like you talked about. And then and as they get older, we have injury and burnout, and the attrition from sport is really important. And I know this is a program also focused on women. And I can tell you that, 70% of kids quit sport between the ages of 11 and 13, and the majority of those are girls.
Yeah,
and
so sure. They're actually dropping out at 3 times the rate of their male peers. Like the number's much bigger.
Absolutely. And so if you don't find ways to intentionally make it a positive experience from the onset and create confidence and everything, particularly with girls, you'll continue to lose them. So that's what, and this is a big, this is the fundamental problem with the way the physical activity and sport environment is, certainly in America and other parts of the world too, but where it's the haves and have-nots. So you have the kids who are uber competitive and start very young and are focused on that and getting better and winning. And then there's a bunch of kids who don't want to do that, and then they quit, or they don't even want to be a part of that environment. And so you get, unfortunately, a real big dichotomy of sport participation.
Do you know what I love about what you said? First of all, I have a baller and an explorer in my family too. Yeah. So I love that because I can totally relate, right? And it's my dynamic is the same as yours, except I have two girls, and my oldest was the one that just wanted to try stuff, all different kinds of things for fun, and my youngest was uber competitive. I wonder if that's like birth order or what that looks like.
Yeah.
You know, the youngest always wants to be able to do as much as their older sibling can do. But right. I love the lesson in that for parents, right? For me as a parent, and I wish I'd spoken to you in my early days as my younger self to say, don't worry, they're not going to get left behind. Like, you know, they're having fun at home. They're building confidence. That's setting them up for life. And then when they're ready, they'll go into their things, right? They'll go into because we have so much pressure on us as parents to make sure we're doing good by our kids, but actually doing best by our kids is spending time with them at home, helping them learn to have fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and along those lines, what I enjoyed hearing is, you know, it's not just about the journey of building confidence for your child, but it's really a journey of building confidence for you as a parent. And it's that, you know, collective journey together that's really, really important. And I don't think we talk enough about that. Yeah. And so that leads me to my next question around, you know, you've certainly stressed the importance and the opportunity that parents have to influence, and you've talked about different categories. You know, what are your suggestions to parents who may have different types of kids? I know certainly I would agree. I have my older is the explorer, my younger is the
you have a baller and explorer too,
right?
Yeah.
So perhaps birth order is an issue, but you know, what would be your recommendations, certainly within your professional realm, Neeru, in terms of, you know, how do you get started, right? And feel like you're having some success.
Yeah, you know, the mindset change is the biggest one. The parents I talked to, and you know, quite frankly, I had researched and spoke across so many, I mean, probably more than 100 times around the world on speaking on this, and I wasn't sure they were reaching, and it was to medical audiences and academies and all these places that a lot of them in large part agreed with me. But it's hard as a parent when you're caught up in the rat race and you're you know, to get perspective. So it's a mindset that take a deep breath and it's going to be okay, a little bit like you said. And so when you see all these other people doing this, your neighbors, your friends that are signing up, and you watch the kids actually pass your kid up, it's hard to watch that. You know, just to be honest, I actually have an extensive background in tennis and teach and do all these things. And I have, you know, they have all the exposure they want. I want them to want it long term. And I have friends whose kids and other kids in the neighborhood are taking lessons 2 or 3 times a week and clearly ahead of our kids. But I just take a deep breath and I go, I'm going to have a long-term approach to this, and it's going to come when it comes. And the data is really clear on that, and our experiences should dictate that. Remember, take us back to a time where, you know, 6, 7, 8, those are really young ages. And, you know, some people don't even get introduced to a sport they end up becoming a professional athlete at until 10, you know, or 11 or even later. And so, you know, and not to get too detailed on this, there is, we did what's called a systematic review in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which is the largest sports medicine journal in the world. And there were 22 studies looking at whether you should play one sport only at an early age versus playing multiple sports. And out of the 22 studies, there wasn't one study that showed that you would be a better athlete in the end. It means elite level, Olympic level, whatever your outcome was. So it's 0 out of 22 studies.
Why isn't that study more widely published? Like, why are more people talking about that?
Well, like I said, that goes to British Journal of Sports Medicine. So do you have an online subscription to that? Probably not.
I don't. No.
Yeah. Information translated to the lay people, right?
Yeah.
And so, and we're fighting, you know what we're fighting, and we're in America, and I'm sure it's a little bit like that, but America, you know, has a very strong business model, right? And so the business model is currently catering to overutilization of that group that's uber motivated, right? And so they get money from taking a kid, having them do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week is easier for business model than trying to cater to a lot of kids who may only do it one time a week. And so the business model is set. That's why you get all these academies and all these facilities that are geared towards the high level, uber motivated kid, just the ballers. And so that's been one of the things, that's been one of the challenging things to combat as well too.
And that model leaves out, your explorers or your starters, right? I mean, it leaves out a good portion of the kids who are not going to head that way, which is why, we here in Canada and, See What She Can Do really thinks it's important at the local level that we make sure we support, not just the elite level athletes in that roadway, that pathway, but also, recreational team sports that are focused on, learning and having fun and being part of a community and all the great reasons why people would want to continue on for the rest of their lives, right? An active lifestyle.
Yeah, we call it, this is going to sound terrible, we call it the youth sports pyramid scheme. And so
what does that look like? That sounds intriguing. I feel like this is a CSI episode.
We have to be a little provocative when we say it, but the reality is the goal of this pyramid scheme is to get a bunch of kids enrolled in programs so that you can figure out who the best kids are. And in each, every 2 years, you get to 6U, 8U, 10U, you find out more and more who the elite kids are. And then you keep catering to that group. And then you get the better and better kids. The
top of the pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is left out. Yeah.
And so we're focused on whatever's left over from that pyramid and trying to keep that pyramid larger. But the pyramid scheme, and then, like I said, is the business model is to keep adding resources to whoever's, left, whoever is surviving this pyramid scheme. And, right now it's happening right before our eyes over the last 20, 30 years. And I'm not saying all coaches or businesses or programs are like that by any stretch, but unfortunately, much more of the focus has been on that elite level rather than the participation.
I think we've experienced, well, even as adults coming into new sports. Caroline and I both play ice hockey together. It's a big sport here in Canada. And we started as adults, like in our 40s. And the joy of a lot of these local associations here locally is that they are offering pretty robust recreational programs for fun. So we're not at the top of the pyramid, clearly. We're also not at the bottom. Like, we're also not at the, the next level through is the focus around kids. We're actually a different level because, we kind of, often get thrown the extra ice time that the kids and other leagues that have been around for a long time have access to, right? So we feel that, but we do have a lot of, we have a lot of local associations who are putting some good time and investment and resources into the recreational level. And I think what we're hearing from you is that that's important, right? We need to make sure we nurture kids and adults even, at the recreational level so that we can have fun and confidence and do it for life.
Well, and it's the emphasis on the long game. Just what you mentioned earlier. At the end of the day, if we're only focused on that top part of the iceberg, then we miss everything that's under the water.
Right. So I'm going to take a commercial. We're going to take a short commercial break right now, and we will be back in a couple of minutes to continue on this great conversation.
Hi, welcome to the Buzz 505 studio. We have a new idea for you to try. We're really encouraging you to listen to our podcast along with a glass of wine. We are featuring this month the Laurent Michel Merlot and the Laurent Michel Unoaked Chardonnay. Both wines can be found at the LCBO for $12.95 a bottle. These wines are really versatile with all kinds of foods, or you can just sip and enjoy them while you're listening to a podcast. The Unoaked Chardonnay is a personal favorite of mine. I like it because it's all about the fruit. When you have an unoaked style of Chardonnay, that means that the wine has never actually touched any oak barrel. So we've got just fruit here with apple, citrus. It's a really nice, crisp and refreshing style of white wine. And then for our red lovers, we have the Laurent Michel Merlot, also at $12.95 a bottle at the LCBO. And this wine is full of blueberry, plum, a little bit of spice as well. It's an elegant and smooth style of red wine. Certainly bring it out for dinner, but it sips nicely on its own as well. So the next time you're listening to a podcast from Buzz 505, we encourage you to pour yourself a glass. Cheers.
Okay, we are back with Lakshmi and her husband, Dr. Neeru Jayanthi, and we're having a really great conversation around the importance of play in home and introducing your kids at a young age to sport in a really fun way. We talked a little bit about how parents can get involved in the importance of their involvement and their confidence in assuring their kids really just have fun and that they have a joy for sport for a lifelong passion, right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to jump in now and talk a little bit about, I mean, you guys have talked around the notion of how important it is to try multiple sports and play multiple sports. We talked a little bit about, high dropout rate. Lakshmi, I'm going to hand this one over to you. What do you say to the parent who says, like, my kid is just not interested? They don't want to pick up a sport. Like, what do you think is at the heart of that?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, every child is different. Every child's interest level is different, and you don't want to force them. So the key is to just make it fun. I mean, just how many kids aren't interested in math or reading. You find fun ways to help them get interested in it. So what we do is to make fun games out of it. Like, don't say you're teaching your child baseball and come up with a good game around baseball, around throwing, around playing, and be involved with it. It's not just you teaching them, it's you playing with them. So especially young kids, ages 3 to 6, parents are their world. So anytime you get down and play with them, they're interested. So they may not be interested in a coach who they've never met before and joining a league of kids they've never seen before, but they may very well be interested in just playing with you and going outside and playing. And one way interest forms in any physical activity is when kids have that confidence to play, like we alluded to. So when they've learned these basic, what we call physical literacy skills, like how to throw properly, how to catch, how to balance, when they start mastering those skills, they start having the confidence to play, and then they want to play more. So a lot of times they feel like they're not successful, or they don't know how to play, or they're not good at it.
Yeah.
That can all be taught, especially at a young age. And so, bringing them in slowly and having fun with them, getting them to master those skills is a great way to get them interested in long-term play.
And if it's okay, can I piggyback on even more specific parts about that? And here's a nice little promotion of the actual box. We thought quite a bit about those parents who don't feel comfortable to teach their kids how to get introduced to sports, not to become some elite level athlete, but to be introduced to sport, especially at that kind of 3 to 6, 3 to 7-year-old age range, which you do for everything else. You do for reading and math and so many other skills you learn in school. In art and you name it, music, but for some reason some people are just not comfortable, and even those with sport experiences don't know how to tailor it to a 3 to 7-year-old. So like Lakshmi said, within every box there's a 4-week curriculum that gives what you do week by week based on whether you're explorer, a starter, or even if you're a baller, the type of games, the warm up, all of it with videos. We even have live coaching, and then fun items in there. I think we have a box right here that has some of the stuff. This is a soccer box, and so each of those has all these things. You get a little book you read with your kid. Here's your curriculum on here with all the different types of cards about what to play. Kids love stickers, and then aside from you don't have the right age appropriate ball and equipment. We don't, as a parent, it's hard to know what's appropriate for that size, in age of the kid and level. And little fun is a little soccer scarf, and and so there's a bunch of stuff in there to help them navigate through that process. So it is kind of spoon fed, and hopefully it makes what we're trying to do is get the parents comfortable to help instruct their kids, again, in a safe setting at home. I hope most people realize when you do sign up your kid at 4, 5, 6 years old for a league, you have a volunteer coach like me volunteering as another parent to teach your kid. And so it struck us pretty quickly that you're paying $150 to $200 for a season with another mom or dad coaching your kid, when you could buy a $45 box and then do it at home for as long as you want with a curriculum.
Do you know what strikes me is two summers ago, I mean, my kids play all kinds of sports, and I remember the year that the league came forward and said, we're going to have to shut this recreational league down if we don't have more coaching staff. And, I've watched a gazillion soccer games from the sidelines, and I'm a pretty confident person. I didn't have the confidence to go out there and be a coach. And then I decided I would do it. I remember actually talking to Caroline's husband, who happened to coach my daughter, for a number of years. And I'm like, oh, what am I even supposed to do? Like, it strikes me that like your next iteration of this project or this, pickup sports should be a box for volunteer coaches, because, the league was going to shut down. I mean, the realities are some parents work and they can't be at every game. And, so we really applaud the volunteer coaches that are out there. But, Absolutely. What strikes me is that I would love to have had a box, like your box, maybe not for 3 to 6 year olds, because my daughter was 15 at the time and she was like, no, I don't want you to coach. But, it was a great experience because watching the game is not necessarily the same as coaching it. And, to have those, like a box with the curriculum and the tools and everything you need in one place, what a brilliant idea for coaches. That's your next product idea.
It strikes me that, again, just to reiterate, and I really think it's so important, so much of who we are as parents, we feel is tied to the success of our children. And so, what is inspiring to what you're doing is you're actually building more than as much as it's focused on the child's confidence. There is a double journey here from a confidence perspective. And, having done this for the last couple of years, do you find that, the feedback that's coming back from certainly, from not only the children, and maybe you can talk to that, but also from the parents? Can you speak to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's actually really fun to watch. We've had, for example, there's a dad who had bought the tennis box for his son, but his older daughter got really into it. And his daughter got so into playing tennis, through the lessons in our box and our virtual coaching, that she actually asked her dad, like, let's go to the tennis court and let's play. And it totally took him by surprise, because he himself wasn't a tennis player, and he just kind of taught the basic skills and didn't even intend it for her, but for her, their son. And, that's kind of anecdotal, but it's been fun to watch, just kids being introduced to all these sports that their parents had no idea how to play.
Well, and it sounds like the kids are introducing the parents. I mean, I had the same thing happen with me for hockey. Exactly. I started playing because my girls were playing and I had never played before. So that's probably an unintended consequence, eh? Like that you're actually encouraging adults to, get more active too, because their kids are learning and they're, encouraging their parents.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. We've seen it, already quite a bit. There's, what were you going to say?
No. And actually, I wouldn't even say it was unintended. In our first iteration, we were debating whether it would be a parent-child box to get the parents to be physically active. This is before the pandemic.
Okay.
And have a curriculum for them. And then we decided that, if you're trying to shoot too many directions, you might get lost with your messaging. So we did focus on the kid. But if you look carefully, all the games involve, and we don't even say parent or grown up, because this, some people don't have, parents or a single parent, or it's a grandparent or uncle, but it's a grown up who will do the warm up with you. All the games are with a grown up. So there's actually the entire program is based on a comfort level of play with another grown up, because it's family oriented. We want the parents to play and grown-ups and be involved in their child's experience. And for anyone who hesitates and worries that they don't know, we're pretty confident. We're going to probably have to do a research study to confirm that every grown-up is better than their 4-year-old at anything.
Not for long. No, I learned that in hockey quite quickly. My kids quickly surpassed me.
You're still better than a 4 or 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So,
better than a 4 or 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And again, just to kind of emphasize just what that experience happens, the opportunity to experience fun with your child or children, we don't allow ourselves enough time to do that. Yeah. And so that's the wonderful thing. You can be spontaneous, you can be but yet conscious of what you're doing, even though, it's like every time you open the box, it's a whole new experience for you, right? Of fun.
So what kind of boxes do you guys have? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, we have 6 different sports right now, plus our adaptive box. So the sports are soccer, tennis, volleyball, basketball, baseball. What did I miss? Football, flag football. Sorry.
Yep.
There's always one I'm missing. Flag football, and then so each box comes with the curriculum, age-appropriate equipment, and then the fun stuff. I think that's really important for this young age. Like we have the scarf for soccer. We've got little tattoos, under-eye tattoos. We've got baseball cards. Things that get kids interested in the sport, from the outside, and so that they, start learning a little bit more about it. There's activity books that teaches kids just the basics that they need to know, how to score a goal, or, what a touchdown means, things like that. And then there's, coloring and matching games. There's actually showing some stuff. Each one comes with like a little drawstring bag, so you can carry all your equipment. And then there's and the equipment is really thought out. It's not only age appropriate, but it's the quality equipment. So a lot of times people don't know that their kid isn't playing the sport properly because they have the wrong equipment. They're using too large of a racket, tennis racket. They're using too big of a soccer ball or too big of a basketball. And then the kid can't actually handle it properly. And that's why they're not successful. So having that right size equipment is important. But there's an educational piece of it. Like parents just don't know. They just give them whatever ball they have and they think that that's fine, but that doesn't work for the kid. And they just think that their kid isn't good at it, but that's not the case. So, we're having to educate on that a little bit. And then we have the adaptive box that we collaborated with Flex for Access on, and creating a curriculum for kids with different physical abilities, particularly cerebral palsy. And that's more of a basic motor control and ball control box to help them with strengthening and flexibility, and also learning those skills, basic sports skills, so that kids with adaptive needs can participate in sports with all the other kids, because we don't want necessarily to have them have a different program. We want to make sure that they're included and they can play with all kids.
Well, we had Jess Silver on our program early on our podcast, and she's also writing on our website. So she's a guest blogger for us, much like you are. There's an article about pickup sports on SeeWhatSheCanDo.com. So our listeners can check in to See What She Can Do to kind of learn a little bit more about pickup sports. But where else can they go, Lakshmi and Neeru, to learn more about this?
Sure. Yeah. Our website is www.pickupsports.co. So just CO, no M at the end. We've got, all the sports listed there. There's also a 3-month program. We're also available on Amazon as a subscription. So the subscription program is only through Amazon, but you just get a new sport every month for 6 months. And it's a great way for kids to try a different sport every month.
What a perfect COVID box, honestly. Don't we need more fun in our homes?
Perfect.
Exactly. It's perfect. It gets them active right at home. And our virtual and on-demand classes help you teach those and just play those games. And they're all quick. These are 5 to 7 minute games. Kids, especially young kids, don't have the attention span for much more than that. So
okay, so you guys are in Atlanta. I forgot to mention that early on. And you had American Thanksgiving yesterday. Did you pull out the football box yesterday and play some football?
We did play football earlier in the week, but yesterday it was more, it was supposed to rain most of the day. So we ended up going to the playground and playing. And I think we played some baseball, maybe a little bit outside, but we did flag football earlier in the week.
That's awesome. Any thoughts for new sports, new boxes? Have you gotten feedback from other folks in terms of what you'd...
Oh my gosh, anytime I mention it, they're like, "Oh, you guys should do lacrosse or cricket." We're Indian by background, so we get a lot of people say, "Do cricket." Golf has come
ice hockey. That's our vote. The Canadian version, ice hockey.
Ice hockey would be fun. We'd have to figure out how to get creative with that. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Our son's walked in right now.
Well, hello.
It's all good.
Yeah.
This is
So there's a lot of ideas out there as far as other sport boxes to do.
Amazing.
Excellent.
So we're open to feedback.
What's that?
I said we're open to your feedback.
Okay. Well,
Oh.
we've got ice hockey as our vote. We'll see if anything else comes to mind. We're super grateful that you guys joined us today, and we know that your boxes can be shipped to Canada. So if you're interested, we'll make sure that we put your link in our episode notes so people can check you out. And one last question, and we've got a minute max each. What are you doing as individuals to keep yourselves moving through COVID?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, Neeru can talk about his tennis, and I'll go into what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, I play competitive tennis, so I'm literally looking. I mean, I have a team and run, and tennis is a great sport. It's actually one of the healthiest sports to play throughout your life, and increases, your likelihood of living by about 10 years. But I play with the kids. I'm perfectly honest. Like, I'll ask them and say, "Let's go. Which one are we going to play today?" And I let them choose. Are we going to do football? Are we going to do baseball? Are we going to do tennis? And they kind of just let me choose what we're going to play. So I get it with them, and we do that every day.
I mean, I think we do have a little bit of. We're fortunate. We live in Atlanta, Georgia, so the weather has been, to our advantage. It's still warm here. It was about 70 degrees yesterday, so we got that going for us. But yeah, we do just, even if we're not doing a sport, going on hikes and getting with the kids to just run around and and I've been doing that a lot, and just working out at home and try to safely go to the gym or just run around in our yard and just play with them as much as possible.
Well, that's a lovely way to close us off. Thank you for sharing, and we're super excited to see some of your boxes in Canadian homes. And we'll make sure we direct people out to your website and all your other resources from the episode link.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks.